All right, now we're going to talk about seeing movement faults. So the place that we start with seeing movement faults is we start with our 4 rules for movement. So the very first thing that we're going to look for in every movement is the spine aligned in the way that's the strongest, most effective, and highest performance, safest position, which is generally neutral. There is also there's brace neutral, there's brace flex, brace extended. All are fine. Main thing is to not see translation in any direction that there shouldn't be. It's like that's the place that we're going to start. In every movement, that's going to look a little bit different, but that's where we start. So if we see any breaks in the spine during a squat or during a push-up, that's where we want to start, because it's going to change the position of the 2 major engines, the hips and the shoulders. And the shoulders and hips are both going to do something funky if the frame is crooked. And once we fix that, then we're going to be able to see what the shoulders and hips are actually doing. So that's definitely where we're going to start. In terms of movement, so like, in CrossFit we talk about core extremity movement. I find that this breakdown seems a little bit easier to teach and analyze as a coach. That's why we talk about it just a little bit differently than maybe CrossFit headquarters. But if we think about loading the base thing first, all right, we got the midsection set. We're just going to the biggest joint, and those biggest joints are set on top of our core. So thinking core extremity, as we move away from the midsection, we're starting to get we're more powerful close to extremity, and the speed is relatively slow, and then we start to accelerate as we get away. When we talk about loading the biggest thing first, all of our upper body movements, if we're not moving our shoulders first, then we're going to be putting more load on elbow and wrist and the musculature that affects them, which is going to slow down that movement and cause movement problems later on. So we want to correct those things first. So like that's the first thing that I'm looking for. As we get into movement, every joint's rotational component is sort of like setting the position that's strongest. And it's like the main thing is like you're going to have plenty of athletes who have range of motions that are missing, or maybe even lack of strength. But what we're trying to look for is that the path is unwavering. So for example, if I'm squatting and you see my knees tracking out, it's fine. It should be staying in that same smooth pattern. But if you see the knee track out and then pinch in and then push back out, that's what we want to be concerned with, and that's the stuff that we want to see, and we'll talk about correcting later. But we want to notice anything that looks jumpy, that doesn't follow these 4 rules. It's like, for example, if I get braced and then I go down to the deadlift bar and my back rounds to get down there, I've already broken the first rule, and that I'm going to have problems with my deadlift because the first rule has been broken. So it's going to be very hard to even consider loading the hips, because now the back's been loaded because it's been rounded. So when we're looking for movement faults, we first start with making sure that things are braced. When we think about loading, it's always the biggest thing first, and third is there appropriate rotation. So if the rotation is being maintained throughout the entire range of motion, then there shouldn't be very many faults to go with it. So specifics to each movement. So the specifics to each movement, we'll talk about in other videos what we're looking for, but some of the main archetypes is we have the overhead position, we have a front rack position, we have a hang position for the upper body, so overhead, front rack, and hang position for the shoulders. Then we have the squat, the lunge, and the pistol for the lower half. By the time you consider those 3 positions of the upper and 3 positions of the lower, we'll cover just about every position that you could possibly find, and you can at least take the principles and the positions from those 6 archetypes and be able to apply them to any other extraneous movements that you might find out in the field.